Welcome to this time of sharing our faith as we look at the passage in the New Testament, 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 18 through 25. In this passage, there's a discussion about what seems to be foolishness and yet really is the wisdom of God. And so Paul writes this letter to the church in Corinth. And like much of the message that Jesus conveyed in his living, it turned the world upside down, this perspective, this message of God's divine love and wisdom. The emphasis of knowledge, of power, of wealth, of status may appear as wisdom, but this is not to be understood as the wisdom that Jesus taught. Divine wisdom is not attainable by the measures of the world values. It's not about how much a person knows or by the measures of how much wealth a person is perceived to have or how much wealth or power that someone accrues. Those things may give a person status, but that is more likely on account of privilege of things, not the presence of character. This was true then, and it remains true today. It doesn't take us much we don't have to look far to see that divine wisdom still eludes the grasp of many. Sadly, often these individuals are ones that flout a different kind of wisdom that points foolishness to truth, to character, to fairness, and to compassion. And because of their places of power, continue this falsehood. There's only one principle that all of life is based on, true life, that is. Jesus laid it out plainly time and again in his teachings and ultimately with his life. It is the life-altering, life-saving power of love. It is not a love for material things or a love of status, a love of power, but a love that places value on life, every life. Jesus said it many times, love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, and with all your strength. And love your neighbor as yourself. That's divine wisdom in a nutshell. The worldview will continually push back against that truth, calling it foolishness. But as people of faith, we must as diligently continue to raise it up before the world as the only way to fullness, the only way to true life. Raising it up means putting divine wisdom into practice in all that we say and in all that we do. Most of us have heard the expression, kill them with kindness, and perhaps we've used it ourselves. Of course, that may not be the best way to express it, but the sentiment is there. Do not lash out at someone with the same harshness they express to you. In other words, as Paul once spoke to the Romans, saying, do not repay evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, he goes on to say, live at peace with everyone. Admittedly, this becomes a real challenge for all of us as we strive to live faithfully in a world that values power and privilege over love and justice. This is what Jesus once meant when he spoke of being in the world, but not of the world. That is our greatest challenge as followers of Jesus' teachings, but it will be our greatest accomplishment of life. This past week we had a new stove delivered on Thursday. Now we've known about the delivery of it more than a month ago. We knew the date would be March 4th. But earlier in the week it occurred to me, as I was laying in bed, getting ready to get out of bed and start the day, that, gosh, the best way to bring that stove in is going to be through our double doors on our porch. The problem with that is that during the winter, we just kind of let the snow pile up there. It comes off the roof continually and lands there. It's a hazard to walk that way, so we just let it fill up and wait for spring. for it to thaw out. Not usually a problem until you're having something delivered that needs the use of those double doors. And so, we took out a snowblower and worked to remove the top layer, but then there was this layer underneath of packed ice and snow. Hoses, Ted said. We'll use water hoses. So we hooked them up to the spigot of the side of the house and brought them around to the front and opened up the valves. The ambient temperature of the water coming out of our well, just being about 50 degrees, worked its magic. Slowly, we began to see holes of being bored into the ice and the snow. And with a little help from shovels, maybe I should say a lot of help with shovels and picks, we were able to clear out this 5 by 12 foot area. And by the end of the day, it was ready to go, clear and able to maneuver in the stove in through those doors and on that walkway. Now, at first, it felt like a Herculean feat to remove all that snow and ice. There must be an easier way. But this being an old farmhouse, and all of our doors are not standard sizes, the door openings, and so we knew actually the best way would be to go through those double doors. Or change the delivery date, because the stove still functioned a little bit, but man, we gave up on that. It was too late to change that. And so we worked at it. And when it was all said and done, while looking at the patio stone clear and dry, I thought about this greater value of diligence and perseverance in facing bigger circumstances in life, about creating change in the face of challenge. Now, there are two things, but really just one, that we can master in bringing true wisdom to these days. Living our inner truth in order to challenge the worldview of the day. That is, continually striving to be of the world, but not in it. In other words, remain tuned in to the presence of this divine love in your inner being. Operate your life from that place of peace, of being, of listening, of seeing, that your true self is fashioned in the image of God's love. Knowing that place within your soul that focuses your vision on the divine wisdom of all is what it means to live in harmony and peace and in love. We have the ability to master that truth that changes our worldview from the inside out. Then when acting in the world, when acting out of that truth within, slowly begins to reshape the rock-hard perspectives that are afraid to see what once deemed as foolishness is indeed the greatest wisdom of all. Blessings and peace to you this day. Amen.